Mr. Sullivan.
Mr. Jackson himself. And we were 5 seconds off that time. I was just seeing how exactly we could get it. And I think 5 seconds is, it's a bit like hand grenades. You don't have to be right on the spot.
It's pretty simpatico.
Yeah.
We are of a like mind. Yes. I always look forward to these times. This is like, I think about our conversations all week. And then it's nice to come together and have them.
Yes. Yes, I sent you a fast filter on VCR, vision
I
capability.
saw that.
And, yeah.
I've been really thinking about, because as I've been journaling and thinking about how to lay it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't gotten there yet. I haven't gotten there yet because I wanted to get really clear with you on, the many uses of VCR. And, I just looked at them from my own perspective, when I create new concepts, new tools, as part of a program.
Yeah.
And so it seemed to me that it's multi-purposed. It's got a lot of different aspects that it allows you to think about the whole project. Kind of in a, what it is, Dean. I mean, we started this as the Joy of Procrastination podcast. We're going on our third year now. I think we're almost in July. Will be 3 years. And we've always talked about the entrepreneur having, like a bigger and better goal. And then we start the conversation of the headwinds that the entrepreneur runs in, because anything new that's bigger and better calls for hows that are new and different, and or even hows that are the same old, but it's not within the entrepreneur's capability to do those things easily or well. And that's the stopping point for most entrepreneurs. It's the stopping point for most humans, that they're stopped by the difficulty or the deficiency of being able to achieve the hows for a new, bigger, and better project. We've never actually taken a look at, well, what's the vision? And it seems to me that what you've done is you've created a framework that don't fool yourself into believing that you have a bigger and better goal if it doesn't have three favorable aspects. It's really a vision. It's really a bit, you're thinking big, and we can go more deeply into that. There are capabilities that you can start with and continually expand that will allow you to get to the vision. And when you actually put this into place, there's a tremendous reach. There's a tremendous reach in the world. You have, you have creation capabilities and you have reach capabilities, and that thing. And so my feeling is that a lot of goal setting for entrepreneurs or for the general public are wasted time because they're not, it's not really doable the way they're thinking about it.
Well, I find that people are feeling like they're, especially in the capabilities department, that they are limiting their vision to the size of their capabilities.
Totally.
And that, I think, is the big thing. And this is where I look at this as the free zone formula in a way, right? That this is a formula to enter the free zone, because in the free zone, you're not bound by your own capabilities. You're not even bound by your own vision or your own reach. It's like so malleable that part of the awareness is understanding what your assets are in vision capabilities and reach. And that's so a lot of times people they take for granted their own capabilities. They take for granted that that's what they've got, but maybe feel like everybody has that, or they don't see the asset that they have of their deployable capabilities on behalf of someone else, right? This is what you're talking about, I think, with the collaboration mindset, that people are looking at their collaboration, or not their collaboration, their capabilities as their inventory that they're trying to sell in the marketplace, right? They're trying to attract a buyer for their capabilities. And when you take your capabilities as an asset and you start looking that you're the buyer with your capabilities as the potential currency, that creates a whole free zone opportunity, a free zone. So there's so much depth here to this.
Well, I think the interesting thing about it is that, I'm just noticing within the limitations of the current lockdown, you do have physical limitations, but they've actually been advantages because I don't spend 15 minutes walking to a meeting to discuss a non-doable project.
Right. Yeah.
I'm actually being protected from, some lifetime worst habits, we have lots of mainland habits.
Yes, right.
Because we were born and raised in the mainland. Why wouldn't we have mainline habits? But I think the big thing, what I'm really noticing, is that any project that I contemplate, and yours is it's an added dimension for me, because I'm now going to internalize this VCR screening. And I said, well, is there a real vision here that I would be excited about? First of all, am I excited about it? That deserves time. Biggest thing is time. Does it deserve time? And then the second thing is, I'm starting with the notion that, generally speaking, to start with, the only capability I have is the ability to describe the vision in a persuasive way. That's the only, and I do have that capability. I do have that capability based on past proof and past successes. And the third one is, I wouldn't even start the project if this isn't going to be Cloudlandia driven. In other words, the reach is going to be in Cloudlandia.
Yes. This is great. And now, but I think that now, this whole, to get people to separate those three, to separate their thinking about the vision without the constraints of their limited capabilities, but in the context of the world's unlimited capabilities, that they have access to the world right now, that there's no capability that you can't get access to. I always loved, there's I think the name is Scorpion. Tim Ferriss had this guy on his podcast who's apparently one of the highest IQ guys ever, and he's got this concierge service that they have, which is for any funded need, where they basically will work with big Fortune 500 companies that need to transition a manufacturing facility to Mexico, and they need to have zero downtime and this whole thing, or a military thing will bring them in. They need to figure out the logistics of this operation, or high net worth people need to figure out anything you can, a vision that you can articulate and fund. That was the that was the word that any funded need. If you have a positive attitude and an unlimited budget, we can get anything done, basically. He's got a bank of geniuses that he has access to. And the concept that I learned from him was this idea of delegating up, as opposed to thinking about delegation as always a pushing down, where you're the pinnacle, you're the smartest person in your pyramid. But we don't often think about delegating up to something that is accessing a capability that may be more expensive than what we're valuing our own contribution to the capability is. And that's often a difficult thing for people to wrap their mind around.
Especially, I mean, just to test it out, that it's 10 times more expensive. In other words, delegating up. I mean, if it's, 10% more expensive or 20% more expensive, you say, oh, well, it's kind of worth it. But 10 times more expensive would be, it would be an impossible thought, But I agree with you. I think that there's a hierarchical, still a consciousness, that remember who's got the highest status here. I will always have the highest status. And I think even the concept of status is an obstacle to thinking. It's an obstacle to thinking here. Well, it's not about status. It's just the capability of getting something done super fast. It's not status, and we all have a capability, that stands us well, of probably getting a certain something done faster than probably anyone we're likely to meet. But that's just a certain something. That's not everything. It's just a certain something. And the question is, can you just kind of, I wouldn't say retreat, but can you just simplify your life back to that you're just the super fast person in this area, and then you have all these linkages to other super fast capabilities.
Yeah. And that's so it's exciting when you start taking the bafflers off your vision, because you thinking through your own limited capabilities is a limiting factor. The interesting thing when I think about people making the transition into the free zone, where if we think about the levels of the way the strategic coach program works, of getting your personal, entrepreneurial levels, right, then building your 10 times company that's self-managing, self-growing. And then from that platform, that's where you really do have the opportunity now to think about the capabilities that you have organizationally as an asset, along with your time, all your excess capacity. It's harder to think, I think, because this is where you talk about the concept of money, total money confidence.
Cash confidence,
Cash confidence, right. That you're knowing that it's difficult to think about deferring payment for your capabilities that you have on the marketplace right now, when you need those capabilities to bring in money right now, as opposed to from a platform of, okay, my company is running and growing, and we don't need the additional money right now, but we do have excess capacity, that now I can look at that as an asset that I can go and seek out free zone VCR relationships,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and last time I brought up the car wash, that we're all going through the car wash, and the whole world right now is going through the COVID-19 car wash, and that a lot of vehicles are going into the car wash, but only certain vehicles are coming out of the car wash, and that if you don't have probably total cash confidence going into the car wash, probably you're not really improving in a useful way while you're in the car wash. You're going to be missing the chrome. Maybe the windshield is gone. Maybe the top is gone when your car comes. The metaphorical, your metaphorical vehicle is coming out, and I'm just struck. For example, I've done 3 different types of Zoom presentations just in the last week. So the 3 are, I did a power up, and it's called a power up, and I had 300 on the call. These are coach clients, and the vast majority of them were signature level, and power up is sort of for the signature level, and I do it, Shannon does it. We've had 4 or 5 different individuals in the company actually conduct this, and we have a structure to it, and it's not dissimilar, but it's only for 45 minutes. So we just, we put out some thoughts, and then basically it's Q&A. It's, it's sharing and Q&A. It's 45 minutes. And then I have 10 times Zoom calls, and in the first part, in March and April, they were as replacements for what would have been in the actual in-person workshops that I would doing. And generally, I use 3 of them to replace a workshop. In other words, it would be 3 times 2 hours, so it would be 6 hours, and that happens to be the structure that we've created going forward. Once we get to June 1st, in June, July, and August will be 6-hour Zoom calls. And those are all in the calendar, according to what people were scheduled for as a mainland experience. Now this is a Cloudlandia experience. Okay. Okay, so we did that. And then the other ones are the free zone conferences, which I've now extended to 90 minutes. And because I wanted to get a breakout session it's hard to get a breakout session and then have a good sharing in 60 minutes, but you can do it in 90 minutes. And everybody was cool about that. Everybody said, we'd really enjoy the extra.
Yeah, I like it.
The extra time. So I've had the 3 experiences, and I would say that looking at all 3, that there was some cash confidence, fairly good cash confidence, and absolute cash confidence. Signature 10 times and free zone.
Wow, that's the way that it played out. Yeah.
I mean, now that you bring up the topic, I'm just using that framework to go back and, and if my power up would have been 2 hours instead of 45 minutes, I don't think it would have changed the nature of the kinds of questions and everything else. And so it seems to me, and the other thing is, a concern with self and company, confidence about company, but concerned about local. And at the third level, total confidence about company and looking much further afield than before the situation started, before the COVID. So I would say in the free zone, everybody's vision is bigger than it was when at the end of February and we went into March. I think everybody's vision is now bigger after 2 months.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that's the great thing about the free zone. You know, I mean, when we start looking at this is Cloudlandia is the great multiplier. I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. You know, that the access, the reach that you have instantly and specifically, I mean, what amazes me is I've been really like with a lot of clients and relationships that I'm working with now, been really using a lot of Facebook advertising as a method of reach, which is it's just amazing how you could reach the entire world if you wanted to, or you could narrow into specific 1 mile, radiuses of it and reach exactly the person that you want to reach. It's ridiculous what we're able to do. I mean, and the things
the interesting thing is when a corporation, well, first of all, an entrepreneur that then becomes a major corporation, creates a kind of universal capability. It's interesting, at a certain point, it almost becomes a utility, like you think of it as a utility, and I'm really, really struck that Facebook and Google and, there's others, Zoom, it's kind of like Zoom. And utility, I don't want to push the word too far, is generally controlled by the government, but these are private. These are privately owned, privately managed, and but they're constrained in the sense that if they start developing annoying habits, there's going to be a replacement. In other words, they're always subject to competition, that if they're not doing something, for example, there's a kind of a replacement Facebook that's a neighborhood kind of Facebook. And, and there may be more than one of them, but I read about one of them. And he's got he was saying, he says, we don't really want to see ourselves as competitors to Facebook, but we are providing something that people have told us they want, and we've done it in such a way that it wouldn't be interesting to Facebook because we don't really make money on it from advertising. We have a licensing fee or a subscription fee that does it. He's got about, when I read about it 6 months ago, he had 500,000 people involved in maybe 50 to 100 person neighborhood networks, and there was rules of behavior and rules of communication in it and everything like that. And the reason is because Facebook doesn't do that well. Facebook wouldn't be interested in that because Facebook's essentially an advertising company.
Yes.
And that wouldn't be, but it would be annoying to Facebook in the sense that if they're using that particular network on a continual basis, they're not paying any attention to Facebook.
Right. Well, that's an interesting thing because neighborhood, the more you, when I think about it now, that neighborhood, it's really aligning people in their mainland proximity. Whereas
well, the
Facebook
other thing is that probably as they've received a boost in interest during this because everybody's had a neighborhood experience, an intensive neighborhood experience. Or I mean, you have a neighborhood of people or you have a neighborhood of people who live nearby.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like we're all kind of have been going local for the last 2 months. We're kind of. I mean, my neighborhood may be in California, and Australia, and Mumbai. My free zone. My free zone neighborhood, and but where they are geographically is kind of irrelevant, except for, some of them have to get up in the middle of the night to be, represented in the discussion. And, but they could be next door or they could be in Mumbai. And it really doesn't matter. It's all a matter of their contribution and their, the value that they're getting out of the discussion. So, it's an interesting thing, and there's this shifting. But I told, I said to Peter Diamandis on one of our calls recently, a couple of weeks ago, I said, this whole thing about globalism, I mean, it's been nonstop for the last global this, global that, global this. And I said, I think there's just going to be one global, and it's going to be technological. And everything else that's not technological is going to go local. Because if you can experience life locally, but still have global capability, why would you want to, you can experience global instantaneously and technologically. Why would you want to do it physically? Why would you want to do it physically?
What was the old saying? Was think global, act local? Is that what it was? Yeah.
They said, as members of a global organization that would fly all over the world for conferences.
Yes, exactly.
But this is not really a favorite topic that I'm talking about here to people like the United Nations, to the World Health Organization, or various cause groups who have conferences, conferences all over the planet, and they don't really like local that much, because they're really striving for certain kinds of global control. And I think we're resistant to global control, but we are very, very open to global capability.
Now that's what would be an example of global control? That we're resistant to?
Well, it would be the United Nations. I mean,
that's what I get it.
International Monetary Fund, World Bank.
Yes, right.
The International Court of Criminal Justice. I mean, I can number, if you want to go through the list, they probably are pages and pages, and these people want to assert control over the jurisdiction of nation states. In other words, they say, well, we want. See, the whole point about these organizations is they started with a particular solution to something, and then as they got bigger and as the world got more connected, they also wanted political control. It's like they all want to assert some sort of political control. And I think that's the thing that's being, investigated right now. For example, I've heard for 20 years, well, the secret to everything is to have your supply chain spread out over 15 different countries. And each does just a bit of your final product. And, you find the cheapest to do this and the cheapest to do this, and you put them all together. And that's a really, really great thing. And then you're saying, but what if one of the countries shuts down its part of the supply chain? The supply chain doesn't work. The supply chain doesn't work. And so, for example, I'll make a prediction that if it's crucial medical supplies, equipment, anything probably in the healthcare world, if it's the supply chain isn't wholly in North America, it won't. It's not going to make it.
That's really, I mean, it's funny, because we've been talking about...
I'm not saying United States, but it's got to be at least Mexico or Canada.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Kylie Jenner's, the company that makes all of Kylie Jenner's stuff, they make everything under one roof. Mm-hmm. I mean, every element from the design to the packaging to the components to they tool their own, compartments, and the 100% of it in a 200,000 square foot facility.
Yeah.
All under one roof. No supply chain hiccups. It's all right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's nimble. That's the way to be nimble. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a client, he's totally a free zoner. It's just that he's been very, very busy, but he still has, but their importance is diminishing. But he has 3 factories outside of Shanghai in China that, create component parts of major technologies like Peterbilt trucks and like the Caterpillar, earth movers and everything like that.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, or 18 months ago, the trade war started between the U.S. and China, and all of a sudden his products on one day got 25% more expensive for his customers. And, and that still exists, so it's not gone down at all. And so he said, well, that's no fun. So he immediately thought, well, I need a replacement. I need a replacement location. And long story short, he's now created 2 factories in India, and where the cost of labor is no more, and he got major help from a lot of really, really high-level who's. He actually did the entire project with 6 impact filters. And, and that was, for him, he says, this has to be totally who, not how, because I don't have the ability, to do this. I don't have the time to do it. Do it. And he got the factory built in the first one in 6 months, and it made $50 million in the first 12 months of being operative.
Wow.
Very profitably.
Wow.
And then he started a second one, and he says, okay, now I want one in Mexico, because he said we do it. And so, his Chinese factories are still going, but his future doesn't depend upon them. He does, his future. So he has eggs, his manufacturing eggs in one nation state basket, and he said, I just can't do that. If it's not my own country,
right.
Not the U.S. And he says, and it's the nature of my work that the factories I have will not be in the United States. He says, because he says, I have to have labor costs down. I can't have U.S. labor costs in my factories and be profitable,
Right.
So, But he said, I can have design work all here in the United States. He said, I can have computer programming work all here in the United States. And,
well, that's Nike. I mean, in a way, right? Like Nike.
Yeah.
And
it's Apple.
It's Apple and Nike. They're all design and innovation. All the design and innovation is done in the United States, and the marketing and sales. And all the componentry and the manufacturing is done more favorably. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything non-material gets done in, kind of all the creative work that's not material creativity tends to get done. But with 3D printing, you can also prototype it there.
Yeah.
You can actually create if you can do the programming, you can create the 3D. So I think that's going to, you're going to see that happening a lot. But it's a real shift. But the global world, as people were thinking about it and dreaming of like sort of global government and everything else, I think that is delayed beyond the horizons of history right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing to think about what you can't even imagine that we've got so much more room. But I think somebody was saying how this period of time right now has kind of compressed our advancement into cloudland. They didn't say cloudlandia. That wasn't what they were saying, but that's what they meant, into this, that we've accelerated by probably 4 or 5 years.
Well, I call it 5 years and 3 months. My model is, formula is 5 years and 3 months. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What's the 3 months?
Well, let's look at where we have made progress in our thinking, our planning, even in execution. That under the previous normal time would have represented a 5-year project, but we've actually pulled it off in 3 months.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true.
Starting June 1st, we have a completely viable 6-hour Zoom workshop, start to finish, and there'll be 125 of them between June 1st and August 31st.
Yes. And it's kind of it must be interesting for you. Are you going to do, what is a day going to include for you? Are you going to do 2 of these or 3 of these in one day?
You mean personally?
Yes.
No, just the normal workshop per day that I would do. It starts at 9 o'clock and it goes to 3 o'clock. It's 9 to 3. In the time zone where you are. If you're in the Eastern time zone, it's 9 to 3. If it's in Chicago, it's 10 to 4. If you're in LA, it's noon till 6 o'clock.
Oh, so you're saying whatever one day a workshop would be 3 2-hour things in one?
Yeah.
One day? So you do it all in one day?
Yeah, so no, you do it all in one day. I'm just saying we've mastered the 2-hour, so we just have 3 of them. In other words, right now we have a 2-hour thing, and it consists of questions to start it off with, which people quickly answer and go into a breakout. And then they come back and we talk about it. Then we take a break, and then we have a thinking exercise, which I'm noticing have to be faster. They have to be faster.
Yeah.
You can't have one that lasts 15, 20 minutes in the thinking. So I've got it down to, at most, it might be 10 minutes. Okay. And then they go and they have their breakout session on it, and then you go forward with it. Now, Shannon Waller did a 6-hour with her team program on Wednesday, and she said it was fantastic, and she learned a lot on how it can be improved. Okay, so, and she'll probably do 2 or 3 more of these, and that's our test model because we're doing it with the team. These are the entrepreneurial team leaders, entrepreneurial team members, and it's a nice one because you can test on it and get your timing down straight and sort of work on it. And, I'm being informed by that when I actually start them. I will not do a 6-hour before I actually do an official one.
Right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
That's all. It's awesome. That's about what I've been doing with my breakthrough blueprint.
Yeah.
That they're about, we start at 10 and we go till 5 with lunch. Excuse me, and some breaks. But I find it flies by. I mean, it's so it's so amazing. So I've got my third one starting tomorrow. So it's been,
Yeah, and I'm doing Genius. I'm doing Genius. Babs and I are doing Genius X on Thursday and Friday. Of this week, and it's 10 to 6. 10 to 6.
Yeah.
So I think 6 hours. Six suits me. 6 hours suits me. First of all, because the Zoom form is a lot more dense. It's a lot more compacted than the in person.
Yes.
You have them more captive on Zoom. In a certain way, you have them more captive. You have more,
Well, I certainly find that the breakouts in Zoom that's the masterpiece of it. I mean, it's really, because you are completely isolated with your four people or your 3 people or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's massively more impactful than the in-person there.
Because then you're truly randomly assigned to people that you might not otherwise be in proximity of at your workshop.
I mean, if I really investigated, I bet there are some people who agree beforehand at any small group discussions during one of my in-person workshops, they will be the group. They will get together. They're not going to allow any. They're not going to have any random experience. The 4 of us will always, when there's a discussion group, the 4 of us will always get together.
Yeah, I find I find guilty of that in a lot of. I mean, I sit beside Joe.
I think you fall into it naturally. I think it's just a thing. It's just a thing of physical proximity.
Yeah. I think that's true. And alignment and collaboration. I think probably that's Joe and I sit beside each other because we do a lot of stuff together, and then we'll have other people. But typically, it's the same rotation of other people.
Yeah.
So
here it's completely random, and
that's what I mean.
I find the randomness exciting. Personally,
I do
find
too.
it exciting. Yeah, it's like, wow, I wonder who I'm going to end up with.
And there's no sense of disappointment when you have to tell, oh no, we already got 4, or we got our, and then there's that sense of nobody gets the sense of being the last person picked on the playground.
Yeah, it's like blind dating without the risks.
Right, exactly. Captive dating.
Yeah. It's good. So anyway, we're kind of feeling upbeat about it. There's been massive amounts of backstage thinking about this and organizing it, and it's just been terrific. We're now into the point where the Zooming is natural. It's kind of hard for me to understand to remember back when I wasn't doing Zooming. It's 2 months ago, and
hard to imagine back then, in the old days. Before I had my Zoom room.
Yeah, what were we thinking?
I do find it amazing. Like, it's interesting now what is kind of a fun thing about the Zoom situation is that I find that people can make a last-minute decision about being able to participate, right? Yeah. If I had an extra spot for the one tomorrow, and I just sent out a quick email, and because somebody had to change the date, I said, "Hey, I've got an open spot for Monday and Tuesday," and people are able to say, "Oh, yes," and now they don't have to scramble and make a flight arrangement and a hotel, and it's just if they're available to shuffle their calendar or whatever to clear Monday and Tuesday. that they're able to come.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neat thing.
Yeah. It was interesting. I was sharing, I forget the exact call I was on, but I was sharing, I know who I was talking to. I was talking to Nick Sonnenberg. He had a podcast, and he asked if I'd be the guest for that week to be on it. And this was on Friday.
Yeah.
And, he was asking questions of, sort of like, did I think that, what could I foresee as big jumps in new kinds of behavior? And I said, well, the easiest one to predict is technological, because we already have evidence of it. But I said, I will tell you this, it'll be interesting because, Zoom is up about 3,000 times. I mean, the 3,000 time ambition program.
Right, exactly.
That's an ambitious jump. Anyway, my mother, I took her to Europe in 1973, and we were just chatting, talking about her childhood experiences. And one of her experiences when she was 8 years old, for about 3 months, was being quarantined during the Spanish flu epidemic. And in her family house for 3 months, they couldn't come in or come out come in. Nobody could come in, nobody could go out for 3 months. And so I said, did anything change in the way you went about things afterwards? And she said, she said, more electricity, and let's finally get a phone.
Let's finally get a phone, so they're connected.
They didn't have a phone. They didn't have a phone, and they said that you have to have a telephone. You have to have a telephone, and you want other people to have a telephone too, so that and all sorts of things. And wanting a telephone in 1918 or seeing the inevitability of the usefulness of phones in 1918 is seeing the inevitable usefulness of all things Cloudlandia in 2020.
Yes. That's amazing. That is you think about these, the tools of Cloudlandia. When you were mentioning Nick, there's a example of a company that's got nothing but capability, right? Like all capability as but I think, and I've said this to Nick, that there's, I think there's an opportunity for him to package those capabilities with a vision instead of thinking about those capabilities as an inventory that is for sale on the marketplace.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where I think that's the biggest thing that people are lacking is vision for thinking outside of their own.
Well, I think there's no question about it, because last year in planning the A360 for the just past January, so we were, June, July, August, putting together the agenda and, the sales pitch, because basically I'm the salesperson for the, new people out of Strategic Coach to go to A360. And I said, I just wanted to, and I did this in Fast Filter. I said, 8 years ago, the big thing was a lot of wow. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And I said, I don't think that wow works anymore. I think you ought to focus on how. And all of our focus should really actually be on two things: software programs that can, where you can very easily, very quickly, very, very low price, get a technological capability into your company, and very, very fast, and then you get a big hit out of it just within the first 12 months. Productivity and profitability, and and I said, I got to believe there's just a lot of it out there that would be easy to package and present. On the stage, and
I think that's a great. I mean, it's almost like
Peter. We called it AI as your exponential who, because Peter just totally fell in love with the who not how concept. Peter Diamandis, but he found out there's like 10,000 things to look at out there, So he's really fine tuning it. And he's putting together a whole online program where you can sign up for a fee, and you'll get the benefit of these people actually coaching you, telling you how you use it and everything. About 20 different, 20 different, to start with, just a program of 20 of them, and they completely explain it. They tell you that all you have to do is be real clear what you're trying to achieve, and that they'll build the capability around and deliver it to you, So that was, that's a huge breakthrough. And I said the other area was, longevity, that people really, really do want to know how they can be fitter and healthier for longer, And I said, if you did those two together, so we did them on the third day. So the first day is a half day, and then the second day is a full day, and the third day, and the after response on the part of the audience there, it was the greatest. The third day was the greatest day in the history of Abundance 360. Yeah, because it was how, it was how. And so my feeling is, I'm getting. You need a certain amount of wow, but you should, if your wow hasn't done its work in the first 5 minutes, then it's not a good wow. But after the wow, you got to have a lot of how.
Or what? I mean, it's really, I think I look at it as it's a cavalcade of what is possible. These are the things, and who is doing these things, right? You don't necessarily need to know how, because these guys are the who for it. But it's crystal clear it's important to be crystal clear on what it is, that the capability that you can have access to with this technology or this software or this who.
I mean, you're very
that there are things that are available now.
Yeah, I mean, AWS, which is Amazon Cloudlandia. Their stuff is almost free. I mean, they'll give it to you for free. And, and the reason is that it lets them test, these tests outside of Amazon to create new innovations and new sub-capabilities and, everything. And plus it deepens your relationship with Amazon. In other words, clients or customers, that deepens your relationship. So, so I think we're really fully into that world. And I think that there will be a massive acceleration of people doing this. And it's a marvelous area for coaching. It's marvelous. Yeah. You need someone to curate to. Peter said there's no curators out there. So he's actually created he's taken his his same thought process, because he has a venture fund and he has X Prize, where they have filters and whether this is a good thing to look at and everything else. And he just modified it and turned it on to a software as a service or AI as a service. And he simply, he just grades them. They have 7 aspects, and he just grades them. And I said, well, make your way of grading part of the coaching program so that people can internalize on their own. And you don't want to be dependent on your curator. You want your curator to empower you.
Right.
But he said there's no curators out there. He said it's absolutely open territory. And I said, well, go for it. I mean, you're good at that. And, you have natural capabilities, and you have a natural, a natural organizational structure to do that based on everything else you've been doing. Why not go for it? So anyway, we're, and I said, look, I'll be a great salesperson for you because I totally believe in what you're creating.
Yes.
Yeah, it was so funny because I talked to one of his team members who's putting the program together, and I said, so they were talking about pricing, and I said, well, the only place to test out pricing is with check writers. I said, there is no other place you want to go to. And she said, oh, no, we're looking at how other people price their programs. And I said, but you're talking to people who aren't check writers. I said, get 10, I'll get them for you, 10 check writers, and tell them what you're going to do and say, what do you think this is worth to you? And, just test out some prices and just do it. And she said, oh, yeah, well, that's interesting. Test on check writers. And I said, works every time.
And it's irrefutable.
I said the only question
irrefutable evidence.
The only question is, do you want to find out now or find out later?
That's exactly right. You're going to find out.
Oh yeah. The check writers. Yeah, you can't avoid them.
That's exactly right. That reminds me of like Mike Tyson's idea of everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Right. Yeah. That's the marketplace has a good way.
Check writers are
punching you in the face.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that they had the Google guys, the guys, and they have the moonshot. And so I was sitting there and I was listening. I think his name is Astro Teller or something at Google anyway. But they had all these moonshots, and they were talking how they work backstage and they test them out and everything else. And I was sitting there and I was listening to their process for about an hour and a half. And I said, does any step in this process actually include a check writer?
Right.
God, I bet that goes on everywhere. I bet you're right.
Yes.
I bet that just is 99% of all new product creation in the world doesn't test on check writers.
No,
as far as pricing goes.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah,
I see it so often.
You can see Cyrus. That's why Cyrus McCormick was so successful. I mean, his main conversation was always with the farmer who was going to use the reaper. And the farmer told him right off the bat, "Well, I can't afford that." And he says, "Well, that's a useful piece of information. You mean you can't? You mean you can't afford it before you've sold the crop?"
Right.
Yeah, I can't afford it before I've sold the crop. Well, then you're going to pay me after you sell your crop.
How about that? Yeah, it was not only beautiful.
And not only that, but I'm going to give you the capability of either getting your crop 10 times faster, or you can have 10 times your crop.
Mm-hmm. That's the truth, isn't it? I mean, it's like, so there's that he had the vision that he knew that this would be where this would fit and what an impact it would have, and that it was worth it for the farmers. It was one of those beautiful, like, symbiotic things that it's irrefutable.
It was a pure free zone collaboration.
Yes.
It was a total, from the start, a free zone collaboration. And then he included other the other collaborators, like the banks, you have the banks and, and I mean, when you put his whole, ecosystem together, the Cyrus McCormick ecosystem, I bet there were about 8 or 9 collaborations in there that, when it got really big, because, his investors, I mean, he would have had his investors and,
amazing.
I bet everybody got paid when the crap came in.
I wonder how far back the free zone goes. I wonder who were the first free zone frontiersmen. I wonder if you think about, you've read all the great books of the world.
Yeah. It's a fascinating question. It's a fascinating question. Just where you see examples of it, but it's not highlighted.
Right.
It's not highlighted. Yeah.
Clues of it. Yeah. I mean, part of it, you'd have to say that's probably part of where it was really the thing that created society in a way, right? Or why, when we started getting into the hunter gatherers and realized, hey, we'd be better off as a group than we would individually.
Well, the one clear-cut one is dogs and humans is pure collaboration. Dogs. I looked it up. How many different jobs can dogs do in cooperation with humans? And it's about 80.
Wow.
that are permanent and long-standing. There's about 80 different specialties that dogs do in cooperation with humans, and they love it. The dogs love it. So that was my talk at Abundance. We already have a 30,000 year model on how to do this with technology. And I said, but you have to remember where the alpha is.
Yes.
And Peter said, well, we'll see about that. And I said, no, where the alpha is. I said, it only works if we're the alpha is. I said, I'm not interested in anything where the machine is the alpha.
Not at all.
Yeah. No.
I watched a documentary this week called AlphaGo, and it was the Google DeepMind AI that created a thing, and they beat the world's top Go player, the professional. Which is, I didn't realize Go was such a big and important game, but bigger and broader and more longer history than chess, for instance. But
it's still but all the intelligence that created that was human intelligence. I mean, the problem is you're always faced with what created this machine that could do this, and it's all human intelligence. Every algorithm in a AI program is a human say, do this, don't do that, and everything like that. And I mean, look at the complexity of technologies we have now. The systems that run your current house, where you are, and there's also things, and but it's all human thinking. I mean, there's nothing in any software system that we use or anything else other than human thinking. It's all automated human thinking, but it's still thinking. And there's a mathematical, do you know set theory? Have you ever come across set theory?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just take it and apply it to AI. Okay. And I said, but the artificial intelligence can never be anything more than a subset of the set called humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It can never escape from the fact that it's all generated by humanity. And I think this is a great topic for another one of our podcasts. But the thing that can never be programmed is human aspiration.
Mm. That's interesting. That's true, because there's so much of that is chemical based, emotional based. Yeah.
Well, and it's in the moment. It's always in the moment. Okay, so suddenly a new vision just gets created. A new vision just gets created. Well, how could you have programmed that? So it seems to me that programming is always based upon past knowledge. It can't be based on future aspiration. So I think that the realm of human aspiration is absolutely unprogrammable. You can't, and so anyway, it's an interesting thing, but what's interesting, I wrote I wrote a quote down. It went out, and I said, in order for computers to be smarter than humans, you have to make humans dumber than machines.
Wow, that's almost like a haiku. It's deep, Dan.
Yeah. It's almost 17 syllables. So I have to write it out and see if I got the 17 syllables down.
Yeah.
But the whole point about it is, if you think about political correctness, that's a way of making humans dumber than machines. Where you don't want people thinking certain thoughts. So you can't say certain things. Well, that's kind of making humans dumber than machines. So maybe the political system and AI are working together to make humans sufficiently dumber than machines so that they can say a computer is smarter than a human being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, this has been quite a discussion. It went by fast.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, just in relationship to VCR, well, you have to do something and I have to do something. You have to call your intellectual property law lawyer, and you have to register as a copyright, a VCR, vision, capability, and reach, and do it soon.
Okay.
Do it before this goes live.
Okay.
And I would use your presentation at the summit in February as the first use of this in public. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I would get a copy. I would get it registered because this is a big one. And I, in the meantime, will do a thinking process where I actually take VCR and apply it to some project of mine, and I'll create some sort of layout for how I did this, and then I'll present that to you. Maybe if I get it done before next week, I'll send you it so that we can talk it through.
Okay.
So anyway, that's the next start on that, but you have to do that right away.
Perfect. I will do that.
I think this has got enormous legs on it, so I think you should register it.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So this is all. It's all very exciting, and thank you.
Well, I think you've put a filter on what constitutes a bigger and better goal.
Yes.
Well, it's not only a filter, but it's actually the recipe.
A formula. Yeah.
And
I think that's the VCR formula. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you don't have VCR, then it must be something that the Renegade can do.
Right. right. That's funny.
Yeah. Anyway,
I love
great chatting. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Dan, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.